Hey, and welcome back to Swedish by Hanna. If you are planning to visit Sweden soon, or if you are studying Swedish, you might notice that some things are a little bit different. Today, I'll share 10 things that often surprise foreigners when they come to Sweden. Some of them are funny, some of them are practical, but these are all things that you should probably know before you visit here. So let's get started with something you will notice right away: silence in social situations. If you have ever been to Sweden, you might have noticed that on buses or trains, in waiting rooms at hospitals, it's usually quite quiet. Or it's more that strangers don't talk to each other and you don't usually greet each other. For many people that comes from countries where you might say hello to a stranger meet on the street or even just a friendly nod or something, this might seem a bit cold or distant, but it's very normal in Sweden that you keep your space and you keep quiet to not invade anyone else's private space. There is even an old joke about Swedish people peeking through their doors to avoid meeting any neighbors when they go outside. And there might be some truth to it actually. But this silence doesn't mean anything bad in Sweden, it's just normal. Secondly, standing in a queue. Swedes love order, and especially when it comes to queuing, it's very important that you follow the social rules and cues. Queuing here is almost like an art form. So, for example, if you go to a bakery or a pharmacy, for example, there's usually a ticket system. You take one of those little small paper tickets, and when your number is called, you go up and it's your turn. And this system allows you to not have to stand in a physical queue and allow any unpleasantness that might come from it. However, for example, in the supermarket, when you stand in the queue to pay, it's very important that you don't push before someone else and that you keep your place in queue. Otherwise, you will upset some people for sure. Foreigners sometimes find this a little bit funny, but Swedes take this very seriously, and if you try to skip the line, people will definitely notice. Take your shoes off indoors. When you visit a Swedish person's home, always remember to take your shoes off directly when you step in through the door. Otherwise, it's considered to be very rude if you keep your shoes on, unless the host specifically says so. Even if you go to a dinner party, for example, at someone's house, you will still take off your shoes and walk around in your socks. This might not be surprising to some people, since this is the custom in other countries as well. However, I know, for example, for my American friends, they find this a little bit strange in the beginning. When in doubt, just ask the host and they will tell you if you take off your shoes or not. In most cases, you should take them off. Recycling obsessions. So, Swedish people are known for their recycling. It's almost an art form. At home, many people have several bins: one for plastic, one for paper, one for metal, and so on. And also, when you throw it outside, you have to throw it in the correct bin. And at a recycle station, for example, you might even find 7 or 8 different types of bins, depending on what you're throwing away. And this might feel a little bit overwhelming if you come to Sweden for the first time, but trust me, you will learn the system very quickly. So now let's talk about Fika. I'm sure you have heard this word before, Fika, and it's usually translated as a coffee break or a tea break or something like that. However, it's almost like a social ritual. So, fika is something you do with your friends or your family or your colleagues. Often, many companies have regular scheduled fika breaks as well, and you sit down with your colleagues to small talk, drink some coffee, and maybe have some pastries as well. So, if you're in Sweden and someone asks you to join them for a fika, it's a chance for them to hang out with you, talk with you, have some coffee, and spend some time together. Now, have you heard this word before? Lagom. Lagom. It's a very interesting Swedish word because it's difficult to directly translate it to another language. In English, you would kind of describe it as something is not too much and not too little, it's just enough. And this is not only a word in Swedish, it's almost like a Swedish philosophy. From lifestyle and design to food and food portions, you will see lagom everywhere. Here on the screen, you can see some example sentences of how this word lagom is used in Sweden. Det är lagom varmt i rummet, and this means that the temperature is just right. It's not too hot or not too cold. Vi kom hem lagom till middagen, and this means that we came home just in the right time for dinner. So if you're someone who is learning Swedish, try to make a sentence that sounds natural using the word lagom and let me know in the comments. Number 7 is personal space. If you have noticed, for example, when Swedish people are waiting for the bus, they usually don't stand together in a group, but they are spaced out evenly to avoid standing too close to each other. And this is even more common in our neighborhood country, Finland, where there's even a meme of Finnish people standing and waiting for the bus, and there is like a 3-meter gap in between every person. So for foreigners, this might feel a little bit cold or distant, but for Swedish people, this is just a way of respecting others and themselves' private lives. And please remember that these are all general observations and there are always exceptions. Number 8 is a really important one, punctuality. In Sweden, it's really important that you are on time, otherwise it's considered quite rude. And I know that this is quite different between different countries in the world. In some countries, you should be a little bit before, like 10-15 minutes before the agreed upon time. And in other countries, it's polite to even come a little bit later. However, in Sweden, it's best to come at the agreed upon time. So if you agreed to meet at 12 p.m., for example, then you should arrive at 12 p.m. or maybe 3-4 minutes before or maximum 3-4 minutes after 12. Even being like 5 to 10 minutes late is seen as late. So if you're going to a job interview, if you're going to a party or meeting a friend, always be on time, and if you are late, make sure to let that person know. Equality and informality. In Sweden, people are usually very informal. We call our teachers, our bosses, and even the doctor by their first name. And in most situations, we use the informal du instead of ni, which is something I talked a little bit more about in another video, which I can link here below. Foreigners are sometimes surprised that there are so little hierarchy, but this is just something that's part of the Swedish culture of equality. And lastly, a very important one in my opinion. This is alcohol and Systembolaget. In Sweden, alcohol is very expensive and there are also strict rules to where and when and how it can be sold. If you want wine or stronger alcohol, you have to go to something called Systembolaget. And this is a government controlled place where they sell stronger alcohol. And Systembolaget is closed in the evenings and nights, of course. They can only sell between a certain time. And it makes it a little bit inconvenient if you suddenly on a Friday night want a bottle of wine with your pasta, for example. So Systembolaget is basically a state-owned liquor store, and you can't sell stronger alcohol in regular supermarkets or in other stores. And this usually is something that surprises foreigners that are used to be able to buy alcohol anywhere and anytime. For example, me myself, I lived in South Korea for 14 years, and there it's not controlled in the same way. So at any time during the day or night, any day of the week, I could go to almost any store and buy any percentage of alcohol. So even for me, these rules can seem a little bit strict and unnecessary, but there is of course a reason they exist as well. So these are the 10 things that many of my students that come to Sweden for the first time are usually surprised about. So which one surprised you the most? Please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please give me a follow and I can make a part 2 because there are still many unspoken rules and cultural aspects that could be interesting. Thank you for watching and vi ses nästa gång.